All right, thank you, everybody. Welcome back. So let's start with the key. If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up, please. If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. All right, cool. Thank you, everybody. So we started with a quick exercise to test our crude unrefined knowledge about privacy impact assessment to see what are the triggers that pushes a PIA, privacy impact assessment. Now, think again, remember our focus is on jobs, right? So it means I want to hear you tell me what is the reason for you conducting a privacy impact assessment at the end of the day. What are some of the triggers? We'll talk about that shortly. But you guys in your group, amazingly, what you guys were talking about is spot on. Somebody said a new technology was procured. I heard information about testing and checking for compliance issues around the environment. Somebody talked about potentially moving to the cloud to ensure confidentiality, availability, integrity is properly taken care of. That was great. Somebody talked about classification of the data based on the sensitivity of the information. Somebody talked about privacy protection from third-party vendors. So every one of these are massive piece of the puzzle at the end of the day. So that is pretty awesome, really. So you guys will see shortly that everything you've talked about is very spot on. But before we do that, let's get into the foundational fundamentals of data privacy. All right. So what exactly are we so focused on? You know, remember again, data is one of the most important assets of your organization right now. Earlier on, we talked about data is the new oil. It means data is so significant. It's an essential commodity right now in a way whereby, you know, a company like Facebook make billions of dollars from data from us. That's what they do. You know, anyone running a business, I bet you, use some of the business ad of Facebook, even TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn. Every one of them have a business ads department where they just focus on advertisement. And sometimes, you know, you'll be surprised. You could easily spend in a year for a small business, you could be spending up to $5,000 on Facebook advertisement. Yeah, it's not uncommon. People spend a lot of money on their ads. You know, everybody spends money on ads on Facebook because Facebook has tons of people. You want to target your ads towards those people, and hopefully you can determine the right people. And that's how they make their money. Huge. Google is a crazy monster in this. They are brilliant in what they do. They know how to determine us. You speak on the phone, they know everything about us. So the whole idea of data privacy is the set of concepts that work to define data as being sensitive and subject to protection and regulation in general. A lot of you talked about compliance around data. That's a big deal also, you know, and many operations revolve around collection, the use, and sharing of our data. It's not just as simple as collection of the data. We want to know how is the data intended to be shared and how is our information processed. If you guys follow the news, you'll see a lot of, you know, times in Capitol Hill, all the CEOs of all these data companies, social media companies especially, come to the Capitol Hill and they have to speak to the Congress on how do they store our data? How is our data used? How is it classified? These are things that, you know, that people constantly put a lot of effort in to make sure that we are being protected at the end of the day. So that's a big deal. Okay. So another thing that is a big deal also is how is our data handling done within our organization? You know, these are things that are constantly questions asked within most organizations today. Okay. Now let's think about this. You know, many times the practicality of it is that the data privacy concerns typically will revolve around whether or how data is shared with third parties, right? You know, and that's a big deal. How is our data shared with third parties? It needs to be defined, really. And how is our data collected or stored? It's not enough that you're collecting my data. I want to know how is it stored, right? Then what are the regulations around the data itself? At the minimum, I want you all to remember GDPR. Can we type GDPR real quick? Let's go, everybody. Let's quickly type GDPR. So think about it and say, for your European counterpart, I want us to type GDPR. Everybody, let's do that real quick. For anytime you have a data that has folks that are living or working in Europe, or they have any presence in European Union, GDPR would definitely kick in. We'll talk about that shortly. Another one I want us to put at the back of our mind, CCPA. Let's quickly do that. That's another California Privacy Act that is a big deal also. If you have location in California, one thing you should remember, California always have their own way of doing things. It's a country on its own, technically, really. They are huge on the way they want to do their own thing. Another one I want us to take note of, anytime you think of healthcare, all of us, I'm sure we know about this. Let's sneak in the word HIPAA, H-I-P-A-A, HIPAA, you know? All right. Another one is GLBA. Let's sneak in that one also real quick. But those first three would be the ones you should always at the back of your mind. If you have a conversation any point in time, GDPR is applicable, to any European location all over the world, right? HIPAA for healthcare. For our Canadian counterpart also, GDPR is the same thing globally, right? I'm not sure of the equivalent of HIPAA in Canada. Definitely, I know Canada has privacy laws too. They would have, I suspect it to be stringent privacy law, but okay, got it. Thank you. Somebody said, Fola said PIPED, P-I-P-E-D-E. I like that. Thank you. All right, that's good information there. So let's sneak in the word PIPED, everybody, P-I-P-E-D-E, because sometimes you find yourself working in subsidiaries that have presence in Canada. So let's just add that, please. At least that's good knowledge. Thank you, sir. That's a good one there. All right. So I can research that more just to get some more insight about that. But that's good, because sometimes you realize that, your companies, they have presence everywhere in the world, North America especially. You see them in Canada, in Mexico, then of course, UK or European Union generally. You see them always having a presence there. Okay, thank you, good one. All right, this is a big one I want us to, I know we've typed it before, we talked about it, I'm gonna make you do it and you probably not like me, but that's good, that's fine. If you get a job, I'm happy. All right, let's go. I want us to type data at rest. Let's go again, everybody. I want us to type it again. Data at rest, data in transit, and data in use. Let's go, everybody, let's go. Everybody, I want us to type it, please, if you don't mind, very important. Because if you know this, honestly, your life will be so sweet in terms of your thinking. It will be clear in your head. If you can get this concept, your brain will be it will embrace it because it will make sense. Think about it. Whether you like it or not, our data has three states in general. One, it's either the data is being stored somewhere, kept somewhere, right? It's somewhere. Whether we're sleeping, our data is somewhere, right? The second thing is our data in transit, meaning the data is moving. We are constantly chatting like we are doing right now. So right now, your data is in transit. That's what's going on. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we are having conversation, we are typing, we are chatting. Data is in transit right now, right? Which is fair. It's not complex, really. Think about it. It's either your data is sleeping somewhere, I'm sleeping, the data is somewhere. I want to make sure the data is safe, right? That's all I'm thinking. Data in transit means, okay, we're in transit right now. The final one, it's data in use. So if I open this file, right now I'm sharing with you guys a PowerPoint. The data is being used. What is the reasonable assurance to give me comfort level to say, this data I'm using right now is not being modified, compromised, data integrity issue, right? So you need to get me comfortable to that point. It's on you. The onus is on, on the organization to get me comfortable that my data at rest, in transit, in use, is not potentially being compromised. That's a big deal, right? Let's remember that. All right, some general key points, I think we talked about it earlier on. We will keep drumming that, the privacy side of it in terms of ensuring we comply with the laws, because we have no choice, right? Because if you don't comply with those laws, they are not going away. The regulators will come after us. They will hit us with serious fines. It's going to impact our reputation as a company, So it's a big deal at the end of the day for us to ensure we comply with those regulations. Some general importance of data privacy, right? Asset management. It helps us in terms of management of the data collected according to due process. We want to make sure we have well-defined policies around privacy also. We want to make sure also regulatory compliance in general. How do we comply in terms of the regulation as a whole? Some general steps in terms of having an effective data privacy process. One, which we would all agree, we always start with the policies, create a set of policies focused on achieving those privacy goals, right? Another thing, let's quickly type this together. Appoint a data privacy officer or executive, whatever you want to call it. Let's type that. Appoint data privacy officer. Some people will call it a different name. That's okay. But can we all type that real quick? We don't mind. Appoint a data privacy. Now, the reason points I'm making you type are things that I know potentially in an interview you can expand your mind and talk about it, right? Because at the end of the day, yes, you tell me you build your policies, you identify the privacy officer, you have a well-articulated communication plan, on, making sure the organization is aware of the policy. You want to have a good inventory of how your policy is being stored and the classification of your data itself. You want to understand you have a technical team, a data security team in general. And what does that mean? Think about it. Privacy is one thing. There's also data security. We'll talk about that shortly too. You see the difference. Data privacy and data security. As the name implies, you will know that when we talk of security, we are making sure that nobody can compromise the existing data. The data privacy, it's more focused about the process in which you're collecting our data, you're storing it and using the data. We want to know all the activities around it, right? And making sure it follows the guideline and policies and regulation in general. So we'll get to that difference in a bit also. I'll skip this again. I'll skip things I know that you can read that are not immediate to. Some general steps to protect data in general. I mean, this is fundamental to most environments, really. In an interview, I could ask you and say, all right, if I ask you generally, I think we can do a quick quiz here, and this is cheating. You can see it already. I can ask you and say, walk me through some, how would you typically recommend data is protected in an organization? So let's throw it out there. How would you recommend data is protected in an organization? Your data protection. Just generally, because think about it, it's your data, right? How do you ensure it's protected? If somebody asks you, generally, who wants to be my guinea pig? Who wants to go? Let me unmute you and just get into interview mode. All right, let me see somebody I can make mad right now. Let's see. I'll choose somebody randomly, especially people that did not use their banner. But you can cheat. The answer is in front of you. Oh, I like that, Maureen. You are awesome. Maureen said me. All right, let me find Maureen. Where are you? Maureen. Let me unmute Maureen. I love that. I love that, Maureen. Let's see. Remember again, my focus is on thinking interview. Where's Maureen? Maureen, can you raise your hands? I'll quickly see. Just raise your hands. Thank you, Maureen. Can you raise your hand, please? Maureen, where's Maureen? Pardon me, my glasses need wiper maybe. Maureen, where are you? Maureen. Here we go. Maureen, can you please raise your hand? Sorry, not thumbs up. Raise your hand. Just there's an icon for raising your hand, so I'll see you first. Let's see. Okay, thank you. Got it. Okay, your show, Maureen. Go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So, okay, here's the drill. So, if I ask you in an interview, and sometimes people randomly ask you some question that might sound crazy. I could ask you and say, all right, from your experience, what are some best practice to protect your data? I would just, it's a softball question, to be honest. What I'm saying is, what are some best practice to protect data? So go ahead, Maureen. Just
yeah. I'll act like these ones are not here. Can you hear me?
Exactly. Just pretend we're not here.
Okay, I'll act like I can't see them here. It says application of software updates, protect password and
pause. So because we are not here, right? And this is a softball. So you would start by saying, hey, thank you, John. Some
Oh,
of the ways
okay.
some of the best practices to protect data typically would include applying software updates, of course, making sure we have solid password protection guideline, encryption of the data, making sure we have effective backup and procedure in place. Then we have a good access control in place also. So spin it however you want to, your style, but make it like in a general conversation format. All right, let's go again. So Maureen, I saw your interview, your resume. I think you might be a fit for one of our roles. But for starters, can you tell me some of the best practices to protect data from your experience?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Akin, for the opportunity. I would say some of the best practices we can use to protect data in this industry would be control access. That means probably limiting who has access to the data, backing up of data in case there is an outage. If it's not properly backed up, we can lose data, encrypting messages so that those that are not preview or those that don't need to see the information don't get that information. Protecting and password, protecting with password like multi-factor authentication. Applying software updates that will automatically do some updates to make sure we're safe from hackers and I don't know.
Excellent, excellent. Can we all give out a thumbs up? Give out any icon just to say thank you. Awesome. She was the guinea pig. She did good. All right, let's give her. Don't play her, people. Give her a thumbs up. Thank you. All right, cool. So the reason I love this, ladies and gentlemen, is because think about it. Your mind must be wired towards effectively communicating to me in an interview situation, right? And this is a question I can ask you. Because if we are saying privacy, right? Data privacy, data governance, it's all about data. So it's a fair question to ask you, what would you say are the best practice to protect data? Because data is being compromised every day. Every day we know, we are hearing the news, data breach every time. So it's just a smart way to kind of see if this person, he or she really understands some basic data health. This is like a basic health check, right? For us to have for our data, which makes sense. So, all right, thank you so much. Excellent. And ladies and gentlemen, when I throw stuff like this to you, quickly jump on stuff like this because it forces you to start thinking and start articulating it to make sense to yourself and to the larger audiences. All right, let's talk about this one. Data privacy versus data security. This diagram explains everything. Look at this diagram. Privacy mostly governs how data is collected, shared, and used. The security angle is talking about how do we protect the data from internal and external attack. Can we all type it real quick? This is cheat sheet. Data privacy governs how data is collected. Let's quickly go. Everybody, let's go. Privacy. Please, if I ask you to type, please, if you don't mind, I would appreciate it. So let's say data privacy covers how data is collected, shared, and used. All right. Then data security focus on protection of our data from internal and external attackers. Pardon me using capital everywhere. All right, cool. Please, everybody type it real quick. Just keep it simple. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. And you thank me later, really, because it helps to shape and make you, because the way I look at it most times is I always say, okay, what did I struggle with when I got into this space, researching it, working here? And so it's fair to say most times we all struggle with the same thing, different level. But so if you can clarify that in your mind, you would be more comfortable. security, as the name implies, we are cyber people. We are trying to prevent from attack. The attack could be internal or external attack, right? If we talk of internal, we're thinking of insider risk, meaning somebody working within our organization, there's a risk. Data privacy, we are saying, okay, all our data you're collecting, how are you collecting it? How are you storing it? How are you sharing it? How are you using it? In Congress, that's what they keep asking Mark Zuckerberg and the Twitter team then, okay, guys, tell us how you guys are using this data. How is it being collected? Is our geolocation being shared? If I move from year to year, would you know where I am? I listen to a lot of those hearings on Capitol Hill, and those are the very detailed questions they ask them. All right, if I move from here using my Apple device, would you know where I am? People get into that level of details with them just to make sure our privacy is a priority for those organizations. And many times, you and I always sign this disclaimer. The truth is that, I don't know about you, most of us, how many of us have time to read all those long stuff? But many times we've signed off our right to many things, but because we don't have time to read it, it's a lot of legal documents that you just don't have time to read. So, but if there is a lawsuit, believe it or not, it will come up that you signed this. If you're on this call today, especially in our new process, for example, if you register for our program through our platform, there's a place you have to sign terms and use, whereby everything that guide and govern our business is there, and you've signed it, right? You register, but you've signed it. The same thing for if you use WhatsApp, Facebook, we have all these documents that they've put there by their legal team and lawyers. And but how many of us go in and read all those stuff, right? So remember, the privacy side is focused on the collection, the sharing, the use of our data. Okay, very big deal. All right, let's move on. 3 pillars of information security. You guys, I was on the call. I think it was an amazing comment there when he said we focus on the confidentiality, integrity, availability. If you've been on any of my program, you know we talk about this a lot. Can we all type CIA real quick, everybody? Let's go. CIA, everybody. Let's go. CIA trial. Thank you. Let's go. The confidentiality, we want to make sure that every one of our information is not going to the wrong place or the wrong users. Integrity, nobody's making changes to our data at any point in time. Availability, to ensure our data is available when it is needed. You might ask, why is this important? Many times, some organizations think about it this way. The folks that make drugs for oncology, for example, for cancer patients, they use IT, operation technology, to monitor how things are done for their manufacturing, the supply chain, the HMIs, they have programmable logical controllers, they have all of these devices in the plant, right? For those guys, availability is a bigger priority for them because they don't care about confidentiality, integrity, because they don't host any data, so to speak, for the plant, right? It's strictly for operation. But if you shut down that plant for a day, that's going to, besides impacting revenue, it can cause loss of life, because that shortage of supply chain, because of a shutdown of a plant, can prevent somebody from having medication that is in a critical situation. So those are the reality of why availability is a big deal for us in cybersecurity also. Okay. All right. Again, I'll move quickly because I want to jump into something else. All right, let's get into the sweet part of it that you guys did. You did a brilliant job of getting into privacy impact assessment earlier on. And within the assessment, what is the purpose of privacy impact assessment? It's typically analysis of how personal identification information is handled to ensure compliance with appropriate regulators, determine the risk around privacy and information system and the activities around it in general, right? And this is just a quick overview of, and every one of these documents, you guys will have access to it, so don't worry. This is a quick overview of some of the basic focus of privacy, right? The collection, the storage, the retrieval, the use, the share. These are the key things, the Security Exchange Commission is constantly monitoring within most environment today. Now let's go to your assignment. When is PIA required? This is what you guys did. I didn't talk about this with you guys before, right? Look at what they said. Number one, developing or procuring a new technology. When that happens, typically, we will likely implement PIA. What about if we are doing a system revision, meaning we have a system and we want to make a slight change to the system? Because you're making a major change to your system, for those of us in our old world, if you used to do like implementation, those of us doing SAP or let's say Oracle Financials, my old world, I used to do SAP implementation, right? Now, if you are, Fred also on the call, if you are moving from ECC 6 now to ANA, right? Now everybody's moving to ANA, and I think they have a deadline of 2026. It means if you are moving to a new total instance of SAP today, then you have to conduct a PIA. Because yes, it's already existing in your system, but you're moving to a total new model entirely. Then we have to do a PIA because we don't know if the new model would be in compliance with the overall model of protecting our privacy. So that's a big one, right? Another one is if there is a need to initiate a new electronic collection of information for any reason. There's a Paperwork Reduction Act passed by Congress. So if there is a need for any kind of collection by law or any reason, then we have to instigate or move a PIA, right? If there was a issuing a new or updated rulemaking, if there was a new law or a new regulation that requires us to make an update. So it means we have to constantly check for updates. And that's why most times you'll see privacy is really within the bucket of your legal department at times. It could be within legal, or there might be some element of, information security tied to it. But legal is always big within your privacy. Your general counsel office, you work with them a lot to go through the privacy laws within your organization, right? Then sometimes if you categorize certain security controls as very high, generally speaking, then you might want to instigate, it might drive the factor to trigger a privacy impact assessment in general. Now, let me quickly talk about what we don't need in privacy when it's not required at all. Sometimes, I know most of us think we have freedom of speech, freedom of everything. Yes, on paper we do. In reality, there are times the government will make a call before they go to meet a judge to get approval. So sometimes, because of national security reasons, decisions will be made, then we go back later to get approval. And that makes sense, right? Because it's national security. This is all of us security, right? So that's a big deal. So sometimes for government-run websites, PIA would not necessarily be required. If they're not collecting any kind of identifiable information from the public or general usage, then it's not required. For national security systems, it's not required. So these are some outliers just to kind of call it out that it's not every time we use PIA. Anytime you see government, many times they would not really care as much, especially when it's national security, right? So just put that at the back of your mind that there are some times it's not required for us to do a PIA, okay? All right, so what we're gonna do next is we're gonna now do a real-time PIA assessment. I'll show you guys real quick. And you guys will see what a PIA looks like. Then I will share also with us as a group, we would work on one of these PIA assessments. It's gonna be fun stuff. All right, let's see this first one. Let's see. We all agree that it's not every time we do a PIA assessment, right? But sometimes it's a requirement for us to conduct a PIA assessment in general. So let's see. Give me 1 second. All right, so let me show you guys what I would like us to kind of play with. This is a sample that I saw that I personally like. So what I want us to just do is all the ones I highlighted in yellow, I want you to make a call and tell me how would you assess, how would you use like a CMMI model to say, how would you treat the risk? This is the response. Let's take the first one, for example. The first one I'm saying, is there a written policy statement for collecting personal identifiable information? They said, yes, we have developed policies around PII. Okay, that's fair enough. I'll say 3. I'm scoring them 3 in my case, right? Because they said they have a policy in place to, that they use for their PII. So that's good. The second one, let me see the other one. Do you have statutory authority for collecting this data? They said, no, we rely on individual state laws and county-specific laws. So they don't have statutory, authority. So they rely on the state law. So you tell me, in that case, what do you think? How would you rate them in terms of, they don't have the authority, and that's fair, Then here we get into collection specification. In this case, I asked, is personal information obtained by lawful and fair means? Now, that's a big statement. Fair means it's subjective. If you tell me that it's fair enough, let me see, somebody's asking a question. Okay, I like that. Somebody said 1. Okay. How would you rate this one in your opinion? Somebody said 1. 1. Okay. Yes, relying on the customer initial consent. I'll probably go 2 also, just because, one thing is for sure, we would have follow-up questions on this a lot, because let me save it well. 1 second. I'll reshare my screen. I just want to make sure. And ladies and gentlemen, these are real life, PIA for some other stuff. So just understand the concept and be able to speak intelligent to stuff like this. All right, let me quickly show you. Let's go back here. You guys gave me 2 here. I like that. Let me quickly go back and do the same thing real quick. All right, let me share my screen. Okay, so we agree this is 2. I'll take that 2. We'll focus on the ones in yellow because those are the ones I had time to put some questions around them, okay? Some answers based on their responses around it, right? And we can always see the kind of questions people ask, and you would be the one to make a call to see if it's reasonable enough. I mean, what you're looking for is that, would you, in good faith, handle our data collection, storage, distribution responsibly without compromising regulation and our policies within our organization? The second layer is that, would you protect our data from malicious internal or external actors? As simple as that. Those are the key things, right? We said privacy and security. Security is saying you're preventing our data from malicious actors within our organization, internal or external. That's simple. Second part is, can you protect us from, and can you ensure that the way you capture our data, store the data, distribute the data, work with your third party, is not going to compromise our internal policies or regulations out there? That's it. If you can give me that reasonable assurance, then that's fair game. That makes me feel comfortable that you are protecting our interests, because at the end of the day, we are liable, right? So I want you to get me to that point. Whatever system you are using, whatever tools, technology, we need to do a privacy impact assessment. Very big deal. Your legal team would always ask you that, have you done a PIA? And the answer should be yes, we've done a privacy impact assessment. If you've not done it, then you've not done your due diligence, especially if it's a new solution you're bringing on board to your company. That's a big deal. Now, if you are dealing with volume of customers, vendors, sometimes, any kind of students' information, healthcare records, you have to. Sometimes, even if you bring some of the hospital system, when they bring some of these huge facilities for, even for like MRIs, some big, if it's a major equipment, maybe the millions of dollars to bring in, you do a PIA to see if patient health record will be compromised, right? So we have to still do like a mini privacy impact assessment to see how does this impact potential, because they would have softwares they are using to run those systems, right? So I want to see that all these softwares they are bringing in is not going to compromise our patient information or their record, right? So you would decide and see what is the guideline to do like an assessment to ensure privacy is also protected. So that's a big deal for us. Okay, let's go a little bit more. And these are the questions. I would like you all, I think we have not a whole lot. The ones in yellow are just about 4 more. I want you all to answer those remaining 4. I've answered, let me see. Okay, let me answer one more. Okay, let's do this one more, then I'll let you guys do the rest. Is personal information obtained by lawful and fair means? I think, what did we score this again? Please, can you guys score this again? They said yes, relying on the customer initial consent. What did you guys score this? Let's go. 2. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'll stick with 2. Okay, I'll take 2. All right. So I want you to get into data quality. That's another section. And I would like you all to do one. This is number 12, number 13. Anyone you see yellow, 12, 13, 19, 12, 13, 19, 13, 19. Then 20, 25, 25. So we have about 4, not a lot. So that's good. Now, guys, the rationale is simple. I know if we can do a PIA for 10, we can do for 20 or 40. Okay, so that's the gist about it. We are knowledgeable enough to know if I can make you do a few, then you're going to replicate the same thing for everything. All right. Maybe for future classes, we would have built all the questions around it, but for now we built about 10. So let's just do the last 12, 13, 19, 25. So I'm going to share it in the WhatsApp group for my folks that are auditing us. I'll share it in the other groups too, so that we can have access to this to play with it. And let's have fun doing it. So let me put you guys in a group in the next, give me 2 minutes to quickly do that right now. I would upload it to the WhatsApp group. Then you guys can have fun doing it. Let's quickly do that for you guys. Let's see. Please, everybody, if you don't mind, make sure you participate in this. It's a good exercise. At least talk about it, because and I'll link it to interview for you guys so that we would appreciate it more. So, all right, I just sent it to everybody. All right, so let's do like another 10 minutes of go through the questions real quick and brainstorm as a team. How would you rate it? And let's have fun doing it. See you all. Sorry. Sorry, guys. It will help if I unmute myself, right? So, okay, thanks. I'm back. All right. I said, as always, that was a great session. I sneaked into a few of those calls, and one thing I would challenge us to think about a lot is when you do a privacy impact assessment, don't forget the goal at the end of the day is you want to get to a reasonable assurance or comfort level to say the data being processed, we feel comfortable. The process around collection, storage, use of our data is within our policies and regulation, policy and procedure, and complies with our top regulation in general. That's really what we're driving at to get comfortable because you're surprised how a lot of softwares are built with minimal consideration to privacy. And that happens all the time. For those of us that are program manager, system manager, whatever, within IT space, you know, IT folks are not, they don't care about your privacy, to be honest. They want to execute and do their work, right? So it's on the compliance team, the assurance, audit, assessment team, security team to go in and make sure they are, all those key things are in consideration. Very important, right? A regular tech person wants to just execute and they are superb at what they do. So it's important to have a layer of oversight to make sure people are following the privacy side of things, security side of things within the business also. So that was good. That was very good. And one thing I would challenge you is please go back and redo the assignments, redo the lab. My case is simple. If you can do 10, I know you can do 20, you can do 30. So the concept and fundamentals are the same thing. Many times you would ask questions. I like one of the group I joined, they said, well, a comment was, we have to follow up with additional question. Bingo. That's the reality. That's going to be the drill. You would always have additional questions. And that's our job, really. If it was cut and paste, it would be no job. It means, you'll see things that don't make sense. You take note of it. You have additional questions to get clarification. And that's the process, really. And you try to give them a timeline to get you those clarifications so that you can keep moving forward and make a decision as quick as possible. But that's it. That's the core of business privacy impact assessment. I want to get into another topic real quick, and that's why I quickly called us back in. The other one we're going to talk about real quick is going to be data governance. So let's quickly talk about data governance, guys. We'll be quick, and after we get into data governance, we try and sneak in GDPR also, the privacy side of the regulation side of things, so that at least you have an idea of it. If you've not heard about it, please go back and listen to all my lectures. I've recorded all of that, so I'm not going to waste time on things I know we can easily tackle. I'll focus on the things that are execution focused, lab. All right, let's go to the next one, data governance. All right, let's talk about data governance in general. Fundamentals of data governance. What exactly is data governance? Why do a company need data governance? Number one, to help to manage the ever-increasing volume of diverse data. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. Data is it can be overwhelming. We have structured data, unstructured data. Gone are the days your data is what you have in your database alone, right? In your tables. No. Your chatting on Facebook for your corporate is your data. Chatting on LinkedIn or your corporate is your data. Chatting on Slack, Jira, all of those emojis, all of those things we do now, they are part of your data classification. Everything is data. We have to scan all of those volumes, your emails, your plus hashtag, put people's name, pulling people's name on team, all those fancy stuff. They are now part of the data we're thinking about. It means within that unstructured level, we still have to implement privacy controls. Are people sharing sensitive information? Are you sharing PII record of your clients? Very big deal. Next thing, implement a functional discipline around data. If there is no structure and discipline around your data, then it's a disaster and recipe for, breach for sure. The other thing is an effective accountability structure within how data is being processed. One thing I would like you to, at the end of the day, think about is within data governance, eventually we would have to tie it back to three key things: people, process, technology. Let's type it together real quick. For those of us in consulting world, it's a common language we use. PPT, people, let's go. People, process, technology. I love my folks. You guys are so awesome. Everybody's just going PPT. All right, let's type it, people. Take it a step further. Let's get our lazy hands out. Let's take it a step further. Let's type it fully. People, process, technology. All right. It's important because honestly, in any environment, because this is a leadership program, to be honest. Anything we do is leadership here. So in my head, I'm thinking when you're speaking to your customers or your leaders or peers, you need to tie everything and say, well, think about it. Everything is within that framework: people, process, technology. We build process, policies, guidelines around process, right? People. Eventually, we are talking about having a chief privacy officer or privacy officer, whatever you call them. We have to implement people. People providing oversight, privacy security, data security, people. Technology, what tools are we going to use at the end of the day? There's one called Calibra. There's a couple of tools people use for privacy storage and all that stuff, right? For data governance in general. Whatever they use, those are like core areas in general. Now, another thing I want to stick in real quick, just to get us into that mood real quick. There's something called data ownership. That's a big deal also. There's data knowledge, data quality, data security, data accessibility. Each of these are sub-areas within the overall data governance. It's a monster, really. So prepare for that. So you might find yourself in data privacy, data governance, and realize, oh, you know what? It's such a huge field. There are so many things within data, but at the minimum, you know all the key foundation to make you very successful in the long haul. All right, let's go. The main thing is within data governance, we want to make sure we have a fairly safe and structured environment in terms of the regulation, risk management, business processes. I'll show you the diagram I really like that I think I want us to all master real quick. Let me see if I can get to that one real quick. I'm going to listen to the class, but I like this one because this is a very good summary. So can we all put together and just say, data strategy equals to, let's go together, and I will explain, equals to data architecture plus data management. And don't overthink it, I will explain it. Data quality, data ownership plus data data management. All right, let me just explain it, people. Don't stress it. Let's think together. So you have a data. We said data is the new oil, right? So whether we like it or not, it makes sense to have ownership. Who owns the data? Is that a fair thing? Right? That one is fair. Okay, you have data. Who owns it? Because if you don't give ownership to the data, then it's the recipe for disaster, really, because nobody will be accountable. So it's fair. Who owns the data, right? The other thing is the quality of the data. Most of us have heard of garbage in, garbage out. If you have a data, but the quality is not there, there's no oversight on data quality, that's a big deal also, right? So it's not just having data, what's the quality? How do we maintain the quality of the data? Data architecture. How is the data structured in general? Earlier on, I said we have structured data, unstructured data. Let me ask, if I'm chatting on WhatsApp and emoji, is that structured or unstructured data? I'm chatting on WhatsApp on, emoji, putting all those stuff, LOL, all those stuff, chatting on Slack and all those channels. It's still data I own. It's unstructured, right? We agree with that, right? What about if I have tables? I'm putting tables, information, financial record, blah, 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 all those things. What do you call that? Is that structure structured? That's easy, right? So that's why we have to have a very good architecture on how our data is, which one will go to which bucket. Now, that's not your role, but you should at least know that process. The next one, data management process. Would you agree with me? We have to have policies at least for data, right? That's fair enough. We should have policy in place, right? That's fair. I should know, how do you classify your data? What is the policy around data? That's fair, right? Then metadata management, many of us, whether we know, if you notice, every time you watch a YouTube page, there's tagging. They try to tag, hashtag, tie it to so many things so that it helps with indexing of the data for the purpose of speed, for the purpose of knowing where each data belongs to, who owns each data. So if you work with data, those are the things that are important. How do you target? So let's use a regular, those of you that use, that are heavy social media user, right? So you notice people, when you do Twitter, they'll put hashtag, other channels. So you're kind of doing like a metadata, you're tying it to so many things, right? You're putting description, you're putting extra work on the data to make it easily indexed and used within your organization also, okay? So just something to know about data, because when you get to a project, some folks will be specialized in those areas, right? That's not your role, but at least when you have a meeting, they are talking, you will know, okay, that's those guys' role. They're the ones in charge of the data management. Some people will be data analytics. They will be running queries on the data. That's not your role, but at least you know what they do, okay? All right, let's go. Let's move on. I'll move past stuff that I want you to go read yourself. Make sure you go watch the class. It's recorded already, so I'll skip this one. Data governance assessment. All right, this is a good one I like too, because this kind of broke it down into different components within data governance, right? Just kind of broke it down into different areas. Feel free, go listen to the lecture here too. It's pretty good. All right, let me just talk about this. Remember, I talked about this 5 key sub areas within data strategy, right? So let's go. Data processes and policies. Yeah, we talked about that already. The key policies around it, the policies, and the processes on how things will be tracked, resolved, monitoring, tracking, sharing of the data, and if there's a need to do like a QC, QA, all of those are added in this process. Data security, we talked about it, how data is handled in terms of preventing internal and external malicious actors in general. We talked about that too. Communication and socialization is not enough to have a data management policy, but how do we communicate it to the organization, and how do we socialize it internally and make it like a cultural thing within the business to incorporate governance within your culture as a business in general. There are some metrics also very important in terms of how we measure key performance indicators. Many times it could be in terms of how much effort is given to reading the policies and procedures, how much effort do we have in terms of data classification, or how much effort in terms of the training for our data management team. Are they well trained? So every organization will determine what is a key performance indicators for their own business. All right, so this is referred to governance assessment lab. So let's quickly go to this lab. Yesterday I know I talked about it, but I just thought it's still good to share it a little bit to see what this is all about. Am I sharing? Let's see. Can you also, let's see, let me stop sharing. All right, let me share this lab. Let me share this real quick. Okay, yesterday I made us go through this exercise. For my, oldies that wanted to just crash and see, this is a very good data governance assessment that I asked us to go through. So now that we talked about data governance a little bit, I will still ask us to just go through it one more time. And I would like us to look at I want us to just touch on, let's see. I'll make it in, let me see the ones I would like you to touch on. See, yes, I like this. Okay, can you all touch on the last one, the last three? The last three is going to be, do a quick touch point on this last three, if you don't mind. But while you do that, look at the first thing, right? The first thing, ensure data governance over key executive, blah, 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 is maintained. The second one talks about determining if board reporting is meaningful, blah, blah, blah. Determine if data integrity is established throughout each phase of the data movement, data of, processing and output. Okay, I think this is a good one. You know what? Let's quickly just touch on these last two. They are big ones. They are good ones. Okay. So I'm going to quickly make you all touch on this real quick, and that's going to be the show for today. But it's a big one because I like the fact that it covers, data integrity and access to data. So don't overthink it. Just tell me what you guys did. I know we did it yesterday already, but for the purpose of folks that are new and repetition does not ought to. So let's take this again real quick. I'll share it on the group and let's have fun. Just do the last two subsections real quick. So I'm going to put us back to our group and let's have fun. And just full disclosure, guys, those projects, I simulated them from real life scenarios. So they are real projects. Mm. All right, thank you. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Thank you, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. We have 3 minutes more. We don't go past 5 minutes, so let's quickly jump on. Thank you all for. I didn't have enough time to speak in on everybody this time around, but the reason I forced us to go through the data governance as a team, I know we did it yesterday, was so that other folks can take advantage of it, and more importantly, to get you comfortable with understanding the overall assessment around data governance. Because many times people want to know where do they stand in terms of data governance? Where do they stand in terms of privacy impact assessment, right? And when do they need to do it? So I'm going to simulate some star. Remember this is our star. Let me show you guys real quick. And like I said, I only have one goal. My value to the team is to make sure all the things you need to be successful to get a job and build a support around you to execute. So you will see me add to our star. So right now I've added, we have incident response 8. So you might see 2 more to make it 10 or maybe 11, and that is something I'm building right now just to make sure we can do justice to it. But the assignment we have this week, let me share with you all real quick. And don't overthink it, like I always say, and just have fun doing it. Let me show you my screen. This is going to be our assignment, and I'm going to post it to the group, and you guys will have access to see it later. First assignment, individual. Please, everything I ask you to do, utilize your group very well. Reach out to your group and ask them if, before you reach out to me, the reason I force you to use your group as your first source is because it makes sense. Build those relationships, build those networks. They will be one of your first point of call. Some of them will get job together when you get, God's willing, and vice versa. Use them well as your resource too. All of us are very smart on this team. I can tell you this for sure. A lot of people, you'll be surprised. I know quite a number of people that are already IT folks, networking folks, database folks, very seasoned auditors, very seasoned, and you guys are fantastic in what you do already. Hopefully, the program is adding more value to understand context of how strategy is built around cybersecurity in your organization in general, how operation is run, people, process, technology, always remember, right? So first individual assignment is go back to the risk assessment we did randomly, and I'm giving you the leeway. This is awesome liberty I'm giving everybody. Randomly select 10 areas in each and score the risk assessment for cloud computing risk under this topic for this particular one. So I give you that leeway. Go ahead and select randomly any 10 and score it. I know we've done it before, but I want you as an individual. The reason I'm doing that is it will force you to kind of relax on your own, not with everybody this time around, just on your own. Just randomly select 10 and assess them. The CMMI score, right? The same thing we've done. Number 2, go to the third-party questionnaires, randomly select 10 and put a comment on those 10. There are questionnaires we've built already. Randomly select 10 and put a follow-up question. For example, they tell us they have asset management done. Bingo, good. The question is, can you provide me additional evidence? Now, let me show you guys one thing. I didn't show you guys before, but let me sneak in and quickly show you. There's something here, if you look, okay, you can see my screen. There's a tab called requested documentation. So ideally, this is a gold mine for you, or if you find yourself doing assessment or anything, these are good things you can ask them to provide before your assessment. So this is what you're asking the vendor to provide. If you look at your tab, there's a tab called request documentation, okay? I didn't call it out because I didn't want to overwhelm us with stuff yesterday, but there is something called request documentation tab. These are documents you can request from the vendors ahead of time, okay? So just have that handy in case life takes you to this part, and that's okay. All right, so that's something we can use. Let's quickly go back to the other assignment. The second assignment, look at this. For the privacy impact assessment, your organization is deploying SAP HANA. Those of us in that world before, I can see Nene, Fred, a few of other folks that we were in SAP before. They are moving from SAP HANA in the cloud, they're moving from SAP ECC 6 to the cloud, SAP HANA, right? So vice versa, they're moving from ECC to the cloud. Don't care about all those big grammar. Your role is you're conducting privacy impact assessment. Focus on the responses in yellow highlight. All I want you to do is the same thing we did before, ladies and gentlemen. This is a group assignment now. There's a reason I'm making you repeat the same thing, because I just want to get us comfortable with doing a privacy impact assessment. So as a group, I want us to go back to this document, which I'll provide. This document is a good one for whatever you see in yellow is the one I want you to focus on. Just give me a score here. All right, just similar to what we've done before. But this time around, do it as a group. Do it from beginning. Ignore what I just do. Do your thing from beginning. Not everything, just the ones in yellow. If you want to touch other ones, feel free to touch it, no big deal. All right. Then the final instruction, the final lab would be another group assessment. Yeah, group assignment. The second group assignment would be data governance risk assessment. Just review data governance risk assessment. I'm going to make you guys do the same thing here. Just come back here and randomly select 10 areas within the data governance risk assessment, which is this document here. Just randomly select 10 as a group and just go through it together as a group. Again, I know we've gone through it already, but there's power in repetition. I want to make sure we are comfortable repeating it and having fun doing it. All right, any question? Let's take one question and we're out of here. One question and we're out of here. I'll post all of these questions to the group and you guys can pick it up from the group. Please always take the time to navigate to the group. I should get everything posted hopefully before 7 p.m. Central Time. All right. If not, just be patient with us. By tomorrow morning, you'll see it in front of you. Questions? Thank you all for hanging out. How do we submit? Yeah, good question. So within the group, you will see assignment link to submit. All you need to do is upload. You will see the submission button there. And I will send this to my team. They will just upload the assignment and you guys will just go ahead and submit. If it's a group work, submit one on behalf of not individually, share it as a group, then everybody will submit theirs together, separately. So you do one group work, but individually are expected to submit yours for your, on behalf for yourself. It's a group work, but you submit yours, the group work, and your individual assignment. So, all right. Thank you so much. Enjoy and best week ahead. Go shine, folks. Remember, just keep crunching it. Let me end with this. Please, please, please print this out, this document, everybody. I beg you. Make sure you print this document out. Start crunching this document. This is our Bible. And I wish you Godspeed. Go shine, folks. Talk soon.